Good evening and welcome to Iowa News and Views. My name's Joe Balcom. I'm the host of the program. Thanks for being with us. You know, this show, Dirk, is it this show? This show marks our third anniversary producing a statewide public access TV program in Iowa. And if you're a regular viewer, you probably have some sense of that. This, I believe, is about show number 76, and we're proud to be here. Iowa's longest running public access cable show, statewide, let me say. Thanks for tuning in. We have an interesting program tonight. You know, one of the issues that's been bouncing around here the last year is how well Iowa's bottle redemption law is working, also known as the bottle bill. And we have two people that are going to talk about that tonight. Our guests are Garth Frable. Garth is the Executive Director of the Iowa Recycling Association. We're pleased to have him here. In addition, Bill Wimmer. Bill is the Project Director for the Iowans for Responsible Environmental Initiatives. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Garth, let's start with you. Who's involved? What's the membership of the Iowa Recycling Association?
The Iowa Recycling Association is a nonprofit educational group dedicated to promoting recycling and waste reduction in Iowa, and we have about 350 members. And today I'm also in the role of a representative of the Beautiful Land Coalition, which is a coalition of a number of different groups. They're working, again, on promoting recycling and waste reduction, but specifically looking at the bottle bill. And that group represents about 10,000 members.
Okay, thank you. Bill, Iowans for Responsible Environmental Initiative, who's involved with your organization?
Well, it's a nonprofit corporation as well. It was initiated a little over a year and a half ago. And it's our board is made up of members of a County Board of Supervisor, a retired mayor from Mason City, a person who works in landfill and recycling operation in West Central Iowa. All of those people are involved in recycling to one extent or another. And our goal is to look at environmental initiatives, and specifically with regard to curbside recycling, litter, and that sort of thing.
Okay, very good. Appreciate you both being here. Garth, let's start with you. Why don't you give us a thumbnail brief sketch of the bottle bill in Iowa? How long have we had it? How does it work?
Sure. The bottle bill was passed in 1978. The General Assembly passed it in 1978. It went into effect in 1979. And basically what happens is when a grocer buys a container of product, Coke, Pepsi, whatever it might be, they pay a nickel to the distributor. They then sell the grocer then sells that product to you and me, and we pay a nickel. When we bring back the empty container, the grocery store pays us the nickel back. The grocery store then sends it back to the distributor, and the distributor pays the grocery store a nickel plus a penny for handling that container. Now, a redemption center can also be used instead of a grocery store, but it's essentially the same situation.
Very good, thanks. Bill, anything to add to that?
No, that's pretty much the system that is in place, yes.
All right. So there's some concern. Iowans for Responsible Environmental Initiatives have raised some concerns about making this law work better. What are some of the current problems associated with the way we currently run this program?
Well, the concern of the organization that I represent is that there may be a better way to do curbside recycling and litter control. Unfortunately, our understanding of the way people are thinking is that if they're doing the bottle deposit law, that's all they need to do for recycling and all they need to do for litter. And there's a significantly larger role to be played. The bottle deposit law only addresses 2% of the waste stream, and it only addresses 8% of the litter stream. So there's a vast majority that the bottle deposit law is not reaching. It passed in 1978, as Garth said, and was implemented in 1979. Since then, significant changes have taken place in the development of infrastructure for curbside recycling, and our concern is maybe we ought to take a look at how these two systems now interact with each other.
Okay, so maybe look to more efficient systems. Garth, what would people say the success stories have been surrounding the bottle bill at this point?
Well, the significant reduction in litter. In the first year after the bottle bill was passed, saw a drop in bottle and can litter of almost 80%, and overall litter in the high 30% range. The bottle bill reclaims about 90% of the containers that it currently covers. So 90% of those containers are brought back, redeemed, and recycled. The bottle bill is also self-funding. That nickel funds it. There's no taxes involved, anything like that. It also creates a great deal of pride in the state of Iowa. As Governor Robert Ray says, the bottle bill creates an environmental ethic, which then applies to other aspects of individuals' lives. And then finally, it's also created a lot of jobs. There are 150 redemption centers in the state of Iowa, and many of those redemption centers and also sheltered workshops employ people with physical disabilities. And so they're given jobs and income through the bottle bill.
So, Bill, when you talk about making some changes to make it more efficient, does it include just expanding curbside in community? What would be some of the elements of trying to enhance what we do now? And would it replace what we're doing now, or would it be in addition to? Or
it would be a replacement mechanism, Joe, is what it would be. We currently spend an inordinate amount of money on that 2% of the recycling stream and the litter stream in the bottle deposit law. Garth does a very good job with the Iowa Recycling Association, and the recycling community has done a good job developing its recycling community out there. But they're having difficulty financially. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The thing that we need to look at is that the most valuable piece of the waste stream is the aluminum. That value could go a long way toward developing, increasing, improving, expanding curbside recycling if we could just put it at curbside rather than simply self-fund the bottle deposit system. And it seems like a thing that we ought to take a look at, because we now have a curbside recycling infrastructure in place. It's not 100% by any stretch of the imagination, but it could be expanded, and it could develop much more than what it is.
Okay. So over the last few years, back in 87 and 89, we passed some pretty good laws on getting going on recycling. We've seen the development of recycling. Garth, what's the state of curbside programs in Iowa in the big picture, and how are they generally supported now, financially speaking?
There are approximately 530 curbside programs in Iowa, which makes it easily within the top 5 in the U.S. for states with curbside programs. The remaining 400 communities, most of them are served by some type of drop-off. The state as a whole has achieved about a 30% reduction in the amount of waste that was going into the landfill in 1988 to date. Most of those programs are funded through either a fee on your garbage bill that's specific to recycling, or general tax, which comes into a general fund for a community. Some are also funded through a tipping fee at the landfill. So there are a number of different ways that those programs have been funded. I would say the majority are funded through some kind of fee on your bill, your utility bill.
Okay. So now when the system works, you buy something, you take it back, and it ultimately goes back to the distributor, the aluminum now. Mm-hmm. What do they do with it? They're selling it, I assume, and making some money for it to defray some of their costs and the like.
That's exactly right. Yeah, they sell it back to the Alcoas or Reynolds or whoever is in the market to buy it. And they retain that revenue to offset their cost in the bottle deposit law. Mm-hmm. It seems logical that with the infrastructure, as Garth has indicated, that we could inject between $10 and $13 million into that recycling waste stream. And in 1994...
From the aluminum?
From the aluminum alone, yeah. In 1994, an interim study committee of the Iowa legislature looked at the bottle deposit law and the situation that we had. And a recommendation that they made at that time was that we ought to look at unifying that system. And now, 5-6 years later, it seems like it's probably time to at least go back and look. It's interesting to note that in 1978, when the bottle deposit law was initiated, it was a program that was put in place when 70% of soft drinks were sold in glass bottles, which were returned to the distributor, washed out, filled, and sent back to the consumer. Right. Now 70% of that product is sold in aluminum, which is the most valuable commodity of the waste stream.
Garth, what about that? Is this money, in terms of being able to see another, say, $13 million come into local governments' coffers through reselling these cans? What kind of money are we talking about to see programs develop where they don't develop, where they aren't now? If we're saying curbside ought to be the goal everywhere.
Well, the first thing I would say is it's important to, again, realize the bottle bill was a litter control bill, and recycling has just been one of its side benefits, so we need to put that out front. There are a lot of communities in the state of Iowa that curbside recycling may not make sense in. And so just to have a blanket statement that we need curbside in every community probably won't fit. And part of the strength in Iowa has been the local innovation at the local level. The second thing I should say is that a number of my board members on the Iowa Recycling Association have looked at the proposal, and their conclusion is that to add these containers, the additional containers, and we're talking about 1.4 billion containers that are covered by the bottle bill, that if those go into the curbside program, the collection costs will offset any revenue generated. Mm-hmm. And the third thing I would say is that many of those containers are not generated in the household. If you drink a pop today in this building, it's not going to go into a curbside bin because it's not generated in a household. And approximately 50% of the containers are not generated in the household. So just to say that these will now go into curbside mean that people are going to drive them all the way home and put them in their curbside bin instead of throwing them in a trash can. Mm-hmm. So,
in terms of one of the things when I think about this program, I think, God, we've developed this habit in people. And then we go to the store, we don't think anything of paying an extra 30 cents for a 6-pack of Pepsi. And then we take the cans back, and it's like it's ingrained in us. And so much of environmental work is changing our habits. Here's a habit we've got in place now, Bill. Why would we try and make a change to this habit?
Well, I think the ethic that Garth talked about, that Governor Ray talks about, I think is a very, very important point to remember. And that ethic translates into the utilization of the curbside programs. We have people who are taking cardboard, paper, glass, plastic to curbside right now. It only makes sense that they would then take the aluminum to curbside as well. And we're talking about a comprehensive program. We're not talking about just identifying those which are home consumption and that sort of thing. What we're talking about is a user-friendly program which is very, very comprehensive. And Garth also talks about litter. And in 1978, the model bill was a litter program. And we're talking about a very comprehensive litter program, too. We don't have a comprehensive litter program in the state of Iowa. We have the Adopt a Highway program, right, and that's about it. We have county roads that need adoption. We have bike trails, hiking trails, public areas where people go that need adoption programs as well. And we're talking about dovetailing both of those programs together to make it a more environmentally friendly place here in Iowa.
So either of you know whether anybody in Iowa recently or any time has ever gotten a ticket for littering? There's a law, right?
Yeah, there is.
It'd be interesting.
And I looked at the medians on the way over here today, and there's a lot of litter in those medians, and I've never seen nor heard of anybody getting a ticket for it. And we could use better enforcement of our litter laws.
Mm-hmm. For either of you, Governor Branstad, former Governor Branstad, has come out in support of this. He's apparently been involved he was in the legislature at the time the bottle bill went into effect. He's a supporter of expanding, I believe, or not changing it. What's going on with this? Is the governor right about that? Bill or Garth, either of you?
Well, the governor is actually the chairperson of the Beautiful Land Coalition, Governor Branstad. And he's looked at the proposal that the Beautiful Land Coalition's put together, which includes expanding the bottle bill to all those containers that are currently not covered. So you buy a Lipton iced tea in an aluminum can, it's exactly like the Coke that you buy. And just expanding that nickel to all those containers, which are estimated at 200 to 300 million. But also to address the litter issue, part of the proposal is to create an environmental trust fund, which the state of Iowa does not have. And it would be the Robert D. Ray Clean Environment Fund. And the concept there is that currently the unredeemed containers, those 10% of the containers that are not redeemed in Iowa, we pay a nickel on those. And where does that nickel goes? That nickel goes to the distributors, and that's approximately $6 to $7 million. That's a windfall profit to them. And we believe that the state should take that money and put it into litter prevention. And that addresses the litter issue. It provides funding. It allows for local innovation, and there are no new taxes involved in that proposal.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Joe, it's not a windfall profit. There's a lot of cost that goes along with the bottle deposit law that's not recouped by the bottlers, the beer wholesalers, the grocery retailers. There's just an awful lot of costs that are involved there. The salvage value of the aluminum, whatever unclaimed deposits there might be, don't make up the difference in what the cost is. One of the things that we have to remember is that one of the reasons why the bottle deposit law, I think, is very popular in Iowa is because the people who deal with it every day, the grocery stores, the the beer wholesalers, the soft drink bottlers, have made it very consumer friendly. You don't see the problems involved in it, and they've done a tremendous job. I would suggest that Governor Branstad, may want to take a look at the problems involved in the existing bottle deposit law, as well as expanding it. You have to understand that one of the reasons it was doable in its original format was because beer and soft drink are franchise-type companies. They have territories, and the product that's bottled or contained goes into a franchise, and you can label that. You don't do that with Lipton tea, Minute Maid, orange juice, or anything like that. It may be imported from Florida, Texas, California, and it's very difficult. And what happens is you get a major problem with foreign containers. We have a problem with foreign containers, even with soft drinks. On the borders, we have soft drink, people who are redeeming significantly more than 100% of what they sell. And Iowa is particularly suspect to that because we're surrounded by states that don't have bottle deposit laws.
Interesting. We are actually we're past halfway. We're into the debate here about Iowa's bottle bill, and we hope you're enjoying the discussion. You're watching Iowa News and Views, Iowa's longest running statewide cable TV show, doing public access. We'd like to know what you think of the show. We've got an email address up on the screen. Why don't you take that down? We'll leave that up for a minute. Send us what your ideas. If you want to be a guest, we'd love to know that. Also, we have a website if you want to learn more about the show, who's been on, and who might be coming on. Check that out as well. Our guests this evening are Garth Frable. Garth is the Executive Director of the Iowa Recycling Association, and Bill Wimmer. He's the Project Director for Iowans for Responsible Environmental Initiatives. We're talking about the bottle bill. And Bill, the grocers, right? We take this stuff back to the grocery store, and they have to deal with all these cans and bottles. What's their take on this? I've heard, and over time that this has been around, they're getting kind of tired of dealing with all these cans.
Well, you're right, Joe. They are tired of it. They're dirty. They're a health hazard. They're not easy to deal with. They take up a lot of space. It's a lot of hassle for the grocers. But it's also interesting, Joe, to understand that the grocery stores, the grocery industry, never ever has asked the legislature to repeal the bottle deposit law. It's been in existence for 20 years, and the grocery industry and soft drink industry, they've never ever come to the legislature and asked for it to be repealed. It's kind of misunderstood, I think, out there, because we hear people say that the grocery stores, the grocery industry, have wanted to, repeal the bottle deposit law forever. They've never ever asked the legislature to do that. And in fact, as we said before, they've made it very consumer friendly. They think that this is a possibility for a better alternative, a better way to do what we're doing, and take the bottle bill and move into the next generation. We think we can use the ethic that's been generated from the bottle deposit law and the education that's gone on and make that into a very good program, better than what we have today.
Garth, one of the things that you suggested a moment ago was increasing the handling fee from 1 cent to 2 cents. Will that provide any benefit to grocers who are putting up with this headache? How will that affect? If we've asked the grocers to do something here and it's a pain in the neck to them, how can we sweeten the deal?
Right, and that's part of the proposal of the Beautiful Land Coalition, is to increase that handling fee from 1 to 2 cents. And that would help both the grocery stores and the redemption centers. Essentially, they have not had a raise in 20 years. And we feel that it's time for that to be increased from 1 to 2 cents. Also, part of the Beautiful Land Fund, the Robert D. Ray Beautiful Land Fund, would be money that would be available to points of redemption to help them improve their ability to redeem things. I should also say that no grocery store has to accept a container if it's dirty. The law is very clear on that. A grocery store can reject any container. In addition, a grocery store can also designate a redemption center in their community where those containers should go. And there are some grocery stores that have done that. So a grocery store that does not feel comfortable about accepting the containers definitely has a number of options.
So, Garth, you've talked about a legislative initiative, the Beautiful Lands Fund, which is, again, give us a little bit more background. That's money left over from uncollected?
Those are the unredeemed deposits.
Right.
So those containers that are not taken back for redemption, and the state would take that $6 to $7 million and then make it available in the form of grants for local litter control, local recycling programs. There's also a fourth part of this proposal, and that is to require all containers sold in the state of Iowa to have a recycled content. When we talk about recycling, one of the key arrows in that, one of the key pieces of the loop is actually to buy recycled products. And we believe that the industry, the soft drink industry and the beer industry should make a commitment to make their containers out of at least 25% recycled content. Aluminum would already meet that requirement. Glass would already meet that requirement. It would just be the proliferation of plastic containers we have now. They would have to step up and actually meet that requirement. And it's already happening in Europe. So it's technically feasible. It just means an environmental commitment on behalf of those folks.
So that's not really an those elements are not the land fund to do some things and the recycling content increase. Those aren't really specifically noted to the expansion or how we do the bill now. Bill, do you have any sense about your organization's support or not for those other elements here? Or is that stuff you maybe you haven't talked about it, but
Well, no, our organization is supporting gathering the research and the data to see where we should go from here in a much more comprehensive fashion than what we're doing. We have two competing systems out there that are vying for the same dollars. Garth says that he needs money for his recycling community, and we can generate $13 million of new money for his recycling community. And he can do an awful lot, I think. We have some good recycling going on in Iowa. In west central Iowa, in the Carroll area, they've got a 6-county area that's predominantly rural. They do a tremendous job of curbside recycling and recovery. The amount of aluminum that could be generated in that community alone would more than offset the deficit that they run every year. And it would seem like it's a wiser use of the revenue that's available. The aluminum is 14 times more valuable than anything else that's collected at curbside. And we have much more of it now than we had in 1978 when the bottle bill was passed.
So, Bill, back to you again. In terms of this upcoming session, which we're really in now, I know there might be some proposal coming forward. What do you anticipate happening this year? Are we still in a research mode and gathering information, or do you sense there'll be a proposal from your organization to kind of maybe begin to make some changes?
I think you can see something coming from us this session. We're not pushing to get something out into the legislative arena. What we're looking for is to make sure that our research is put together. We've gone through the concept stage. We're in the research stage. We're in the development of plan stage. We're hopeful that we'll be able to get something ready for the legislature this year. But we don't want to come forward with something prematurely. We want to make sure, at least in our minds, that it's something that is worthy of the legislature looking at. And we think we're on to that type of proposal. And when we're finished with it, then we'll bring it to the legislature, hopefully yet this year.
Gar, same question to you. Legislatively, you've talked about a number of initiatives here. What's your sense of that? You're going to have a bill this session to look at expansion.
Well, we have that proposal. The Iowa Recycling Association is not a lobbying organization, so we actually don't lobby those issues. But we have a bill that we've put together some language that we've suggested that if someone wants to look at it, they can, for those 4 points that I've talked about. And again, we would love to see an increase in recycling in the state of Iowa. However, my board at the Iowa Recycling Association has looked at the proposal as we've received it, and they believe this will actually increase the cost of recycling without seeing an increase in the diversion rates. The proposal that I've seen has talked about an increase in diversion of 45,000 tons from IREI. However, the bottle bill currently covers more than that. So if we get rid of the bottle bill and we do not recover those containers, this may be a net loss for the state of Iowa. And actually, the Department of Natural Resources did an analysis of the proposal and determined that there would be a 2,000-ton net loss in the amount of material we recycle in the state of Iowa under this proposal. I believe that if we really want to achieve reduction, we should look to the bottle bill. The bottle bill is not the past, it's the future. It puts the responsibility on the consumer. If we applied the same kind of philosophy to tires and appliances, we could achieve reductions of those materials in the same level. The two innovative pieces of legislation, the bottle bill and the lead-acid battery requirement, where when you buy a lead-acid battery, you can return your old one, both have resulted in a 90% plus return rate of those. And we should apply that same philosophy to other items, not back up. We should be moving forward. And I should also say that in states with container redemption laws, with bottle bills, the participation rate in curbside is higher than in those states without container redemption laws. Bottle bills complement curbside recycling, do not compete with it.
So you're building on habits, basically. Bill, go ahead.
Let me correct, if I can, the numbers that Garth just told you about the research that we've come up with, not the proposal, but the research. It is a net increase of 45,000 tons per year. That's over and above what curbside recycling does now and the bottle deposit law. There's an increase of 45,000 tons per year collected. So it's not like doing less than the bottle deposit law. In fact, the bottle deposit law is 47,000 tons right now. It's almost like doubling the current bottle deposit law in increased diversion under our program from what it is currently today. And we think we can achieve that. And one of the things that we think people don't take into consideration is the ethic that's been brought about as a result of the bottle deposit law. One of the reasons why we have good recycling programs in Iowa is because people understand. And with more education, we think people will understand even more. One of the things that we find is that when recycling programs get into financial trouble, what they do first is they cut their education program. And we think that's devastating to recycling programs. Our research indicates that you have to invest in education and you have to continue to invest in education in order to keep the participation rates up. And the participation rate then increases the amount of recoverables and it keeps stuff out of the landfill. And we think the expansion of curbside recycling is the way to go, and we can invest this money directly into that program.
Great. Good closing statement, Bill. Appreciate that. We're down to about our last minute. Garth, I'll give you about 15 seconds just to make one final point, and we'll get out of here.
The greatest impact is always a financial impact, and the bottle bill builds into recycling a financial impact. And I would say that the 6-county area that you're in right now, Lynn and Johnson and the counties around this, the Solid Waste Technical Advisory Committee looked at this proposal and decided to support the expansion of the bottle bill, not the repeal.
Very good. I appreciate both you being with us today. Good discussion of these issues. I look forward to learning more about this as the session goes on. You've been watching Iowa News and Views. Thanks for being with us. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our crew for now their 3 years worth of work on this TV show. We're all volunteers just trying to bring issues to your attention, hopefully from a progressive perspective. Thanks for tuning in, and send us some mail and check out our website. It'll be coming up here shortly. And see you next time.